Shazam!
With the obvious success of Aquaman just recently in December, it's nice to see that the DCEU, if that's even what it's called anymore, the DC movies starting to make a move forward, a nice upwards trajectory to kind of not so much fight against the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but just live alongside it. A lot of people were unhappy with the dark tone that they went with Man of Steel and then Batman vs Superman. It wasn't great, but since Wonder Woman, it's only been getting better. So after Aquaman, we now have Shazam, which is ticking a lot more of the boxes that you would expect from a superhero comic book movie. It's got emotion and heart, it's got action, it's got comedy, and the special effects are just really up there, and they're absolutely amazing. Now, this film for me is not quite a 10 out of 10. It was brilliant. It's a really good movie, but again, it is just a step in the right direction that DC need to go for, again, if they want to live alongside Marvel, who have been killing it from day one. There's been a few misses there as well, but 9 times out of 10 they get it right. But this movie is definitely, it's fun. It is a very fun, colourful superhero world that you want. The story is pretty much basic. If you know anything about Shazam from the comics, Billy Batson is a young orphan who spends a lot of his time running away from foster parents because he feels like he doesn't belong. He always feels like he's better off on his own, which, sometimes it's a storyline it's a very basic storyline when it comes to superheroes. They learn their powers, they learn to live with that and how they can do it solo, and then someone else comes into their life and they have to learn to be part of a team. And that's not really what Billy Batson is good at when we first meet him in this movie, but he eventually gets put into a foster family with 4 other children and very, very loving foster parents, which he's not really had before. He just wanted to be on his own. He wanted to go out and look for his mum, who he lost when he was very young. He just tries to do it all alone, and obviously, like I say, it's a very straightforward plot point where he eventually learns how to be part of that family. It's not really a spoiler in any way because it is very A to Z. That's what you would expect from a storyline like this. Now, if you've seen any of the trailers, you know that eventually he does meet a wizard named Shazam, played brilliantly, I must say, by Jimon Honsu, who has been killing it. He's been in Marvel twice. He's been in 2 Marvel movies now. He was in Captain Marvel recently. He was in Aquaman as well. Very blink and you miss it, but he was in there. And now he's playing the Wizard of Shazam, and he really just brings that character to life, and he absolutely owns the time that he's in this movie. He's in it very fleetingly, but when he is there, he just takes command of the whole screen, and it is an amazing presence that he gives off. It's a very amazing performance. So there's not really much else I can say about Jimon Honsu. It's just he owns it. That's the best way to put it. But yeah, he is the Wizard Shazam, and he imparts onto Billy Batson his powers to become, this superhero that we all know who's going to be in this movie, who originally was called Captain Marvel, but is now called Shazam. It's all very confusing lore from back in the day, early days of Marvel and DC. Billy Batson discovers that he now has these powers, and he can, after uttering the word Shazam, turn into, Zachary Levi's big, huge, muscle-bound, bulletproof, flying, extremely strong superhero. And The contrast between Billy Batson and Shazam should not be that different. This is one little sticking point that I had with this movie. It's one that really just bugged me the whole way through. Billy Batson is a certain type of character. He's very, not so much moody, but he's very withdrawn and he's very much a loner. And he doesn't really talk much. He does talk, but he's not really a wisecracking kind of kid. When he turns into Shazam, the personality should be the same. Now, Zachary Levi's portrayal of Shazam is very, very goofy, very joking, very, just over the top silliness. And there's a big difference between those two characters when there really shouldn't be. I mean, Zachary is great as a child, technically, in an adult's body, so that part of his performance, I've not got a problem with it. It's absolutely brilliant, but it's just the big difference between those two characters is there when it shouldn't be. Now, just to skip back to the very beginning of this movie, where we introduced to a very young Dr. Savannah. He comes across the wizard Shazam, and he is offered those powers, unbelievably, but he is not very pure of heart. There is a test to determine whether a child is worthy of these powers, and he fails miserably, completely and utterly fails, and spends the rest of his life growing up trying to rediscover this wizard and how he can attain these powers, and he just drives himself insane trying to find it. And when he eventually does, he gains powers of the 7 deadly sins, which is really strange, just 7 demons all lined up, and they all inhabit his body and give him essentially the same power set as Shazam, but maybe just a little bit stronger and a little bit quicker. Very great. It's very, really, really interesting, but I don't know anything about the Shazam lore, so I'm not sure if this is ripped from the comics or whether it's made up for this movie. It is interesting. I kind of like how they did it, but it's all very strange how the powers of Shazam all come from gods and kings, and yet his enemy is an idea. The 7 deadly sins. It was just really weird. It was great. The demons looked absolutely incredible, but I didn't quite understand. Again, I don't know much about the comics, so maybe it is from that, and it would make a lot more sense if I were to read it, which I'm actually inclined to do, because Shazam is such an interesting character. I might actually go back to the comics. But again, Mark Strong was absolutely great. He is such an incredible actor that he really just pours everything into this evil, misunderstood character, and why he is the way he is. He went through his whole life not being believed and not being given the love that he, which basically is what he craves, and it's just absolutely intense. His American accent could probably do with a little bit of work, but other than that, it was a great performance. One of my favourite characters from this movie was Billy Batson's, foster brother, Freddie, played by Jack Dylan Grazer. He was hilarious. I absolutely love this kid. It's very rare when you see kids in movies and they're actually enjoyable. A lot of them cannot act, and a lot of them basically just get on your nerves. But this kid was great. He was funny. He was, when he needed to be, he was very intense and very, very sure of himself. And it was, oh my God, I loved it. I cannot believe this kid's performance, and the fact that he's only like 15 is just amazing. I could not have acted like that when I was 15. I cannot act like that now. So his performance just absolutely stole the show for me. And his character in it, he's a superhero loving child, because in this world there are superheroes, and literally everywhere you look in this movie there is nods and Easter eggs towards the superheroes that are in this universe. It's a bit crazy. There's Superman, Batman backpacks, he's got replica batarangs, he's wearing Aquaman t-shirts. At one point there's a fight in a toy store and there's Batman and Superman figures. It's weird how we've gone from last year absolutely no superheroes in this universe to suddenly there's toys of them. It's a crazy way that you look at this universe. Now, I'm not going to go through every single actor and character in this movie because there are far too many to mention. Let's just say they all did brilliant. They all did their jobs very well. The two bullies from the school, you know, hateable, but kind of enjoy them at the same time. It's very strange. But I do want to mention the actors that played the foster parents, Cooper Andrews and Marta Milans. They were brilliant. They kind of kept this whole family vibe going. Whenever you're in the foster home, they are the kind of cool parents that, you know, you would expect in that kind of foster environment. They weren't too harsh, but they weren't too loving. They were just kind of cool people going along for the ride. And even though all of this weird stuff is happening around them, they just kind of kept their head, kept their cool, kept the family going. And, you know, eventually it does work out because Billy Batson decides, well, he comes to the realisation that family is everything, and he really enjoys his time there, and he does become a part of the family. I'm not going to spoil much of this movie because for me it is definitely worth seeing. It is a cinematic experience, I will say. It's a, you know, it's a popcorn movie. You go in there with your big popcorn, your big drink, and you have to enjoy it because it is so colourful and funny and action-packed, and everything that you would want from this kind of movie is what this is. I highly recommend you go and watch it. I'm going to spoil one thing though, so if you don't want any spoilers, I suggest you stop watching now. Thank you for watching, by the way. Feel free to like and subscribe, but go now because I'm going to discuss one thing. Have they gone? Good. Superman was in this movie. I was very shocked. Now, it was not Henry Cavill. Quite clearly, it was not Henry Cavill. It was someone with the same body build as Henry Cavill, which is impressive in itself. But the very last beat of this movie, we see Shazam turning up to have lunch with his friend, his foster brother, Freddy, who gets bullied incessantly throughout this film. One of the ways to, you know, kind of get him on the popular side is he decides that he should be there, go and have lunch with him so he can show everyone just how cool he is and that he has a best friend who is a superhero. Now Shazam sits down, looks at Freddy and says, "I've brought a friend with me." He turns round, it pans round, and it's Superman. But you only see him from the neck down, so that's why it's obvious that it's not Henry Cavill. But there have been so many rumours about Superman being in this movie that everyone just kind of brushed aside, and everyone said that was not going to happen. But he was. So that just absolutely blew my mind. I could not believe it. It was a blink and you'll miss it thing. You know, it was literally 2 seconds. It focused on Superman's kind of chest area and then the screen went black. But it was just absolutely brilliant, and I didn't know whether to laugh or be shocked or what. I just had no idea it was coming, and it's things like that that really make me love these movies, because although we discover so many things from these trailers and we discover so many things from websites and everything, that it is so hard to have a surprise like that, and when it happens it just gets you right there. Absolutely makes movies like this, although it was really, really good, just 10 times better, and it was absolutely incredible. I can't believe Superman was in this movie. Amazing. But all in all, like I say, it's a good film. You should really go out and check it out. I'm not really great at rating movies. I'll probably give it a 7.5 out of 10. I think I'll give every movie that I see a 7.5 out of 10. I'm not sure why. But it was really good, but it wasn't quite incredible. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give me a like and maybe subscribe to my channel, and I will speak to you soon. Goodbye.